Hi, everyone. My name is Matt Hames, and I'm the Associate Vice President for Digital and Social Strategy at 3 Enrollment Marketing. Today, we're going to talk about the 3E Run Rate and Scenario Simulator. It's a long name, but we like to call it also the 3E Answers Machine. So, as you see in the description below, like everyone talks about the enrollment cliff, but they only talk about it from this big 20,000 foot level. They don't talk about how it's going to impact your school, if at all. So we built a solution that uses your data and data that we have collected, proprietary data, to give you the answers that you need about your enrollment for the next 7 years. So, anyway, to talk about that today, I'm joined by Graham. Graham, why don't you introduce yourself to everybody on this LinkedIn Live?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Matt. And hey, everybody, my name is Graham Brunel. I'm an enrollment analytics specialist with 3E. And my background is in the private sector, which really suits this product like we're going to talk about. Because what I've been excited to do is to take the spirit of innovation that I've learned in the private sector and really apply it to some of the challenges that have been existing in higher ed for a little bit of time now.
Great. So, Graham, tell us a little bit more about the run rate and scenario simulator.
Yeah, so run rate, this is really something that's been mainly done in the private sector and the business sector. This is new for higher ed. What it's looked like really in higher ed for a long time is a lot of guesswork. So the goal of this platform is really to eliminate the guesswork. Really, what it is a run rate is your projections, right? Your enrollment trajectory if you were to change nothing within the context of the external market. So not within the context of what the market has historically been when you achieved your historical results, but with forward-looking data of changing, population sizes, college migration, out-of-state student migration rates, so on and so forth, and then charting that trajectory against your long-term enrollment and net tuition revenue goals. The scenario simulator piece is to be able to look at that trajectory, see the difference between the projections and your goals, and find ways to test levers and strategies that will alter that trajectory positively against your goals to help meet your targets. And then lastly, what it's going to do is it's going to provide board ready visuals to be able to take all the enrollment mumbo jumbo and the data and translate it into the dollars and cents language that boards typically speak at institutions.
Right. So I assume one of the problems that this is solving is when you go to a board meeting or a cabinet meeting and the board says, "So what does enrollment look like in the next 5 years?" This is actually giving you data so that you can present to the board. Here's what enrollment looks like. Here's what we're projecting enrollment to look like for the next 5 years if we do nothing. Right? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. So really the central problem that the platform is solving for current partners is an inability in higher ed to be able to see the future projected market. So again,
Yeah.
historically in higher ed, institutions have looked at their conversions, their yields, but again, they've assumed that market conditions are going to remain the same, which obviously we know they're not. And that inability to see the future market, the external market, and specifically the inability to understand how that external market conditions in the future is going to impact those conversions and yields, that historical performance. What that leads to is, number one, it leads to a lot of goals which just frankly aren't viable. And when you have a culture where goal setting is not taken seriously, internal goals and metrics are often not met, it really makes the allocation of resources inefficient. Um, Also, what
Yeah.
it does is, I was speaking to a VP of enrollment recently in a small private in the Midwest. We had a conversation about how the inability to see clearly into the future, the inability to see clearly into the future in external markets, right? Things of that
Yeah.
nature. It really prohibits resources from being committed to initiatives that could be potentially groundbreaking. And lastly, just along those lines, you know, when you have to focus on what you've done well and only what you've done well, and you're not able to be creative, you're not able to be innovative, it's really forcing institutions to stay comfortable, stay conventional at a time when they really need to be thinking outside the box, getting uncomfortable and getting unconventional. But they can't do that if they have no clear picture of where their return on investment is going to come from.
Great. That's that's awesome. And basically, if you don't have somebody who's a whiz at Tableau and a whiz at just collecting the data from all over the country, including your own data, then this is a great solution. But it sounds complicated to set up. How easy is this to actually set up?
Very, very easy. Our partners who have set this up, it takes them maybe 2 to 3 hours at the absolute most to put together the data file, maybe 5 minutes to upload it. There's no IT involvement needed, so it's
Oh, that's great.
extremely easy. No PII being exchanged, and so it's extremely easy, extremely hands off. And you just mentioned it, Matt. Another thing that this is really doing at the end of the day is it's centralizing functions which may at some institutions be being performed, but they're being performed in a very decentralized way, in a very fragmented way,
Yeah.
potentially across multiple staff members, certainly across multiple platforms between all the databases that this incorporates and capabilities. This is really centralizing everything that we've talked about into one tool with very much an easy way to set it all up and get going.
Yeah, I was actually last week I was in a meeting with a bunch of different schools, and one of the schools in their schools, it was a big regional state school. Their school had a center for population study, and so the VP of marketing had asked the Center for Population Study to report out some stats for a particular state. And I thought to myself, if they had the run rate and scenario simulator, they wouldn't have to rely on asking some academics to run a report. This is what the run rate and scenario simulator does.
It's all on demand. It's all at your fingertips, and it's something that really can help distill something that's a macro, very ambiguous, very vague sort of problem or challenge. The enrollment cliff being one of them, and like I said, at your fingertips, being able to take that and interpret that through the lens of your institution's profile.
So we talked about like the negative scenarios, like we said enrollment cliff a couple of times, but there are also positive scenarios that you can put into this. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the scenarios that you can put in once you have the data in? What kind of positive scenarios can you put in?
Absolutely. You just mentioned it. Really, in terms of the scenario simulator, the two categories would be opportunities and threats. Like you said, we've talked a lot about the threats, but the opportunities could be, being able to identify an out-of-state market, which is beyond not only your home state, but maybe your dominant regional out-of-state markets as well, where you can see that very organically you've done very well without much investment and without much intention. That might be a new market where you could go to the board and very confidently say that with intention, with strategy, and with investment and resources, we would be able to get X number of students from this state, and that would translate to X number of net tuition revenue dollars as well. And being able to translate the return and quantify it in terms of dollars and cents
Yeah.
is very powerful in being able to go to the board and ask for budget to be able to do that. So we hope that this platform's ability to quantify those opportunities in new markets and in other ways and other levers, certainly as new developments come out on the platform, will really do the enrollment office justice in their presentation to the board and trying to corral resources.
Do you have any sense of how some of the people who are already using this are using it?
Exactly like we've talked about. We hear it all the time. Recently, there was an enrollment office that told us that after coming out of their first board meeting since implementing this platform, they feel like for the first time they have the tools to be able to turn and evolve and transform their board into strategic enrollment partners. The problems that are facing higher ed, specifically enrollment, are not going to be solved by enrollment practitioners alone. We know that
Right. Yeah.
enrollment practitioners have the knowledge, they have the expertise to be able to guide their institution. But the question is if they have the tools to be able to persuade their colleagues and other stakeholders to get behind them and to follow. And so
Right.
that's what we see the platform doing for the institutions that have partnered with us.
Yeah, I mean, I was never a VP of enrollment, so I'm only going off what the VP of enrollments, the former VPs of enrollment at 3E have said. But everybody who's seen this tool and seen the outputs have said, wow, I wish I had that when I was in the office. As you said, it just offers them the tools to bring people into the conversation and bring people in to just understand this. So, we've talked a lot about hypotheticals in this. So, how can somebody see a demo of this?
Yeah, so if you want to see a demo, I believe the link to my calendar is below this
It's
video.
going to
You
be it's not there yet, Graham. It's gonna be there in the
okay?
comments once we're done with this. We're gonna put a link to Graham's calendar, and you can book a demo right with him. We're
Well, if you're
unfortunately we
watching,
can't put a comment or a link inside of this right away, but we can put it as soon as this LinkedIn Live is done.
well, excellent. And if you are watching this live, feel free to just connect with me on LinkedIn. Just shoot me a message. I'll definitely make sure to accept your request. And the other ways, you can go to our website, 3enrollment.com, and under solutions, you can find the 3E run rate and scenario simulator. There's a link to be able to request a demo or a personal private viewing from myself as well there.
And how long does a demo take?
A demo can take 20 to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Seeing the platform is very quick, because that's really the whole point of what we're talking about, right? Designing the platform um, to be simple without sacrificing the poignance of its insights. So
Yeah.
the viewing is not that long at all. And then, in addition to that, we can certainly chat beforehand to make sure that it's an effective solution for the challenges facing your institution.
Yeah. So if you want to see this thing in action, see it working, get on Graham's calendar and get yourself a 20-minute demo. And honestly, get the tools that you need to walk into a cabinet meeting and say, here is a projected enrollment for the next 5 to 7 years. Let's start talking about the budget to help get this. Anyway,
Exactly.
thanks for your time, Graham. I really appreciate chatting with you. And thanks, everybody, for their time.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, everybody watching, and look forward to connecting with you very soon.